I was born in California, but I lived all over the place because my parents moved around a lot. And but ended up back in Alabama. I shouldn't say back in Alabama. I got there and discovered the blues scene and stayed. Johnny Shines was still alive at that time, who traveled with Robert Johnson.
And you played with Eddie Kirkland as well?
Yeah, Eddie Kirkland, and
yeah.
Willie King. Eddie, all those guys really took me under their wing. Eddie, I had a Alabama State Council on the Arts scholarship to study with him, an apprenticeship grant.
Wow.
So Eddie and I hung out a lot, and then Johnny Shines and I, for the last 10 years of his life, he shared my bands locally, and then he would travel, he actually went a lot of places during that time, like Japan and France, and there people would put bands behind him, but locally we were his local band, and so that was an amazing apprenticeship, to
and
work.
I guess there weren't many female players.
No, and it's funny because somebody last night, she's going to be interviewing me for a book on women and creativity, and I think she was trying to pull out kind of the sexism aspect of the music world, but I have to say that truly, even though I was, quite shy, insecure, and green, these guys all treated me with respect and appreciated the fact that I really wanted to play, and I never really experienced that kind of, barriers. I don't see it that way. The blues, the relationship between England and America is a two-way street. I mean, you guys, of course, get to credit the influence of the blues on your music, but we get to credit the Brits for really helping to open the eyes up of white America to what they had in their own backyard. The Brits have always loved the blues, and right now, there's a lot of players like me who come over here and tour that feel like the Brits are really helping to keep the blues alive, and all these lovely blues clubs, that are run by just these, often older guys that are just totally in love with the music, but dedicated passion. No one's getting rich, Lord knows it's not commercial music still.
What sort of records were you listening to when you were growing up?
I really actually first fell in love with a lot of the soul players, and ironically, end up in Alabama where, Muscle Shoals is 2 hours from me, and so that's where I recorded my last record. But so I love all the soul stuff. I love, of course, people like B.B. King, but they're just tasteful players that every note counts. You try to make a guitar talk. You don't. It's not about a million notes or just blasting people.
Turning, the sun and moon still rise, a universe of magic right before our eyes. It starts with love, ends with love. It starts with love, ends with love.
I love people like Bonnie Raitt early on, who, of course, is no traditional blues player, although she started with that influence, like me. So I'm a huge fan of Bonnie Raitt, and I've actually got to meet her quite a few times because she has supported the nonprofit I founded called the Alabama Blues Project.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, tell us about that then.
So the Blues Project I founded first because the state's heritage has been and continues to be so overlooked. But then it grew into doing programs, Blues in the Schools programs, which I just delved full blast into for many, many years. And we got a KBA, Keeping the Blues Alive Award from the Blues Foundation, and lots of National Arts and Education Awards for that work. I still do an annual blues tour of schools in rural areas that are underserved by the arts. We have a curriculum that tells the story of the blues, but tells it in the context of Alabama. So we talk about different players from the state, and everything from W.C. Handy, who's the father of the blues, and that's complicated because, again, jazz and blues in the mix. Big Mama Thornton, who had a hit with Hound Dog, which helped, with the transition to rock and roll, is from Alabama. One of the cool things that people have not properly acknowledged is that Robert Johnson, who is considered the icon of Mississippi Delta blues, actually was taught to play by an Alabama juke joint player. When he disappeared at the crossroads, quote, sold his soul to the devil and became good, he was actually studying guitar with an Alabama blues player.
He was just on a guitar school somewhere.
He was. And that's been documented. And if anyone doesn't believe me, look at your Robert Johnson liner notes. And it's funny because this information's been out there for a long time.
Do you think Alabama gets a sort of short shrift?
Yeah. I do.
As opposed to, say, Mississippi or Tennessee?
Completely.
Or
Part of it's their own fault because the government hasn't made the effort to do the kind of cultural tourism that Mississippi has, and Memphis has, and New Orleans has.
And what's the actual scene like for playing?
It's amazing. It's because there's so much happening. I have a Facebook, Alabama Blues group on Facebook, and my purpose of it was to showcase what's going on a daily basis in terms of blues, and I think it's impressive. I think it can, it's not a competition, but it is just as strong as what's going on in Mississippi. I've been there since 1979, and there's always been a serious, dedicated blues culture. It's the indigenous musical culture, and it's not because anybody's ever made shit from it. It's just because that's the indigenous music. You don't play the blues to get rich. I mean, you play it because it's something you love and you have to do. It's just like in your bones, and you just have to. You can't quit. You might try to quit, but you always go back because it's what you're really meant to do.
To enjoy